But you got to be scarce with it. You got to go. We are live. Why don't you lay something down for us while I'm setting this up? Sup, Alice? You know what time it is.
Hey, Alice.
Oh, hi. Hey there. Welcome, welcome. You are just in time, my dear. Why isn't that letting me? I got this. We're here to talk about the original Mac Daddy, the OG.
The actual original Mac.
No Mac prior.
Yeah, they're really where the original Mac. I mean, that's all you can really say.
Mac. If you didn't know, Alice, the word Mac, like verb, noun, you know, okay, it comes from Machiavelli, who we're here to talk about. I'm still setting this up, and I just spilled my Coke.
Uh-oh. Don't spill your Coke.
That's Coca-Cola. Freestyle over this, Phil.
Why would you suggest?
Go. You got it. No? All right. Yeah. You know what? It'll be easier for me to do this on my phone real quick.
Let's see.
Just bear with us, Alice. DJ Neef's got some stuff to lay down for you. No, speed it up again.
Faster.
8 times speed. Yeah. All right. Sorry for the delay. So we are gathered here today to talk about The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. the guy that he wrote this book for, the guy it's dedicated to, never read it. What was it? Lorenzo di Medici.
I never. Yeah, that's right. Who was apparently a huge figure in history.
Yeah,
Why didn't he read it?
I don't know.
How do you know he didn't read it?
I read that he didn't
Oh.
read
Oh.
it.
Type shit.
I mean, I imagine if you were a ruler of any type, and some dude who you had imprisoned under accusation and then tortured and then released wrote you a big long thing about how you should run the country.
I didn't know that context.
Yeah, and actually, I'm not sure if he was the one that did that to him, but I think it was. It was in the All in That Country. I did some background. The copy I had a big intro, not a huge intro, but it had a big history and a write up on the context of what had happened. And that's why it ends up being the type of book that it is, which, I'm going to go ahead and give Alice the heads up that this isn't our standard type of book to read, because it's almost like the Art of War, where it's written in like standards, or I guess that was the stanzas, or whatever that term is, different.
Yeah, there's absolutely no dressing to it.
There's
He's
so
very,
many
very to the point.
Yeah, it's got many chapters, but that's because some of them are just a page.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's really interesting. This was a more popular thing to do back when this was made, and prior. There was a genre of books, they called them mirrors for princes, and it was instruction manuals like this. I wonder if you could consider the Art of War something like that, actually. But
that's almost like self-help books nowadays, when you see the self-help area.
Oh my God, they're just ancient self-help books. You're right.
Yeah, it's this ancient self-help book.
But like for nobles and rulers, like not for like peasants. You don't get one.
No, like this is applicable only if you're ruling a country.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, no, it's not. I mean, you can translate it to can translate it to business, kind of like reading Iceberg Slim's Pimp is very,
or the Art of War.
It just has like concepts that you can translate into business or just your day-to-day life as well.
Yeah, it's a very quotable book.
Yeah.
That's why it was easier to look up quotes than go dig, grab my copy of it. I was going to go grab it out of my bag, but I said, you know what, I'm just pull up some quotes, because it'll be easier to do that than try to thumb through and find different stuff. Some of it's very obvious, but it doesn't make it bad. It's just, it makes it seem like it's not that interesting. It doesn't really, So some of the quotes are a little more, you can bounce them around a little more, if you will.
So I was also doing just a little bit of like history about Machiavelli, and this book was like, and Machiavelli himself were some of the first people in concept to separate ethics from politics, because before that there's the two things were like tied together, where it's like your politics have to be ethical, which makes sense,
right?
But his thing is, as a ruler, maybe you don't want to do what's best for the world. And it's an interesting book, because there's an argument to be made that it's kind of diabolical, right?
Yeah, some of the stuff in it was very survivalist. It kind of reminded me of some of the tundra thought I'd talk about, where it's like, look, if we had to be cold and completely incompassionate to everybody outside the inner circle, this is how we'd have to be. And I guess the idea with a better governing system or a better leader is, when you one who can be, the people can relate to them. And I guess he's kind of saying, look, to run a country, then you don't have to be able to relate to them as long as you can rule them.
Yeah.
Which has been shown to be true in history. I mean, there's countries that still run. It's not fun to live there, but they still run. They still exist.
Yeah. I mean, there's also like, if your goal is your preservation and your place where you are, then like it's not necessarily obvious that you do the ethical thing. That's
Right.
in that case. So it's where the it's kind of like where the philosophy of necessary evils come into play.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like we don't have to worry about the threats they were worrying about. Literally, the family, I think it was the Medici family, had gotten overthrown and then came back into power. And so I think when they got overthrown, I think that's how it worked out. So you got a lot of feudal stuff going on. We don't conceive that the same way because we don't live in that kind of era. We don't have to worry about this other country is going to take us over tomorrow, maybe, on the real, it's like, it's not a bunch of soldiers with pikes at the city gates, kind of shit. So,
and have been there for 6 months throwing cows over the walls.
Right. Who's gonna, one of them, we might have a new king.
Yeah.
I hope he's cooler than this last dude.
Yeah. It's just so flighty. Like empires rise and fall.
So
I guess we don't like, there are like underdeveloped countries, but we don't see the level of like changeover that used to occur.
Right.
Like
like
minor politics, minor changes all over the place.
Well,
that's
the
thing.
thing
That's
is,
why, because of Machiavelli's approach to ruling, separating ethics and politics. I mean, because politics definitely don't have to be ethical now.
No, certainly not. I mean,
ethics can be based on opinion, though. And the thing is what you end up having is when you have a government that forces ethics on people, and you got to think ethics have changed over time.
Right.
Back then it was ethical. A whole lot of, beheading people might have been ethical. Now we don't consider that to be a practice of ethics, even if we have capital punishment, but so it also has to do with the people you're ruling. So it's kind of one of those like, well, it was a different time, which is one of those excuses I never really like to go to with things, because it's kind of an easy cop out on a lot of stuff. I like to, go a little deeper, but that's kind of how it is. I mean, it was a different time and place. So he was saying, look, if you want to not get taken back over again, if you don't want to get thrown out of power.
Yeah. And I mean, and that ultimately leads to a lot of order in your kingdom, right? If you have a level of stability. So it does benefit people.
Right. And that's, but we're talking about a monarchy.
Yeah.
So when we live in a republic where it's, supposed to be based around your ability to grow as an individual, and it's a democratic system, or as, democratic system, so everybody has a say, or at least a representative say. So it's our ethics we can all have different ethics. Whereas in a monarchy, if you got different ethics than the king, you might get hung.
Off with his head.
Off with
his head. Sorry, I know that's a triggering term, Alice. That was insensitive. That gave Alice PTSD just now.
Oh, Jesus.
Said that. I like this part here. A prince ought to live amongst his people in such a way that no unexpected circumstances, whether of good or evil, shall make him change. Because if the necessity for this comes in troubled times, you are too late for harsh measures, and mild ones will not help you, for they will be considered as forced from you, and no one will be under any obligation to you for them. So what he's saying is actually know what your ideals are and stand by them. Don't let good things or bad things sway you from your moral
Right.
compass.
You stand with your people, but they have to know who you are.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily, you're making an example to your people.
Yeah.
It's
It's
as a leader, you're basically saying, I am how you should strive to be. And if you don't do that, it's then they don't feel obliged, if you will, to follow your commands.
yeah. There's
There was another quote that I saw that reminded me similar to what he was saying with that. It was a real simple.
Can you find that one about telling the truth too? About people telling the truth around you?
Oh, that was the he who wishes to not what you're asking, but a moment ago, he who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. And that's kind of the quick way of saying that. Let's see. Was I talking about it earlier?
Yeah, you pulled it up earlier. He was
Oh,
talking
right.
about
Flattery.
yeah.
There is no other way to guard yourself against flattery than by making men understand that telling the truth will not offend you.
I think that one's really important. Is
Yeah,
if the people around you are afraid to tell you the truth, you're in serious trouble.
right. And I like that he uses the term flattery in a negative light.
Yeah. I mean, it very often is a negative thing because it's like it's not the truth.
Right.
Right. And it's like there are examples of courtesy, which is why we have flattery. So it's like, does this dress make my butt look big?
Right.
Like that's
like, oh, you look very nice, and oh, you flatter me.
Yeah.
How flattering.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily
bad example.
But
you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
And what he's saying is you're guarding yourself against that, because if you're ruling, you don't need yes men.
Right. No, you absolutely don't. You want a counsel that will tell you when you're fucking up.
Right. And in life, a lot of people, especially nowadays, people don't really feel comfortable with accepting the truth.
I think it's because people would rather accept their own ideas about themselves and accept how they think other people view them rather than hear it from them.
Right.
I guess. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is people live in fantasy worlds and don't want to live in reality all the time. And I'm definitely guilty of that too.
Well, nobody likes to be told they were wrong. Just like I was talking about the other day to somebody, that it hurts people really bad when they find out they've been tricked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it hurts them real bad again when you point that out to them, even if you don't directly say, hey, haha, you got tricked. But if you bring something up that relates to that or reaffirms the truth that they found out that affirm that they were tricked, then it's offensive to them. They can feel offended by it or feel attacked by you.
That's kind of how I feel about organized religion.
Right.
It's like got tricked for a really long time.
Yeah. And it sucks.
Yeah. It's like generational trick. There's a part here. And this speaks to Machiavelli also talks about how as a ruler it's better to be feared than loved if you have to pick between the two.
Yes.
And he has that is a whole conversation in
I
of
think I
itself,
see the quote right here.
because he goes really deep into that.
That's funny. I think I pulled up what you're talking about.
But here we have men ought either to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries. Of more serious ones they cannot. Therefore, the injury that is to be done to a man ought to be of such a kind that one does not stand in fear of revenge. And that, I guess what he's saying there is there's no half measures. It's like, if you're going to do something,
yeah, there's no point there. If it's punishment, you know, if it's injury, if your point is injury, then that it's not an effective injury if they can retaliate.
Right.
There's no, you know, you didn't, your point wasn't made. So it's, you know, it's basically saying he makes a lot of statements where it's like, look, if you do this, there's no room for error. You should have no room for fault by, you know, extending that. Well, it's like, this is what I was thinking you were talking about, which might be part of that same one. He says it's much safer to be feared than loved, because love is preserved by the link of obligation, which, owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. But fear preserves you by a dread of punishment which never fails.
Mm.
And it's interesting that he uses those two as opposites, which is something I've always done, is, you know, said fear is the opposite of love, not hate. And it kind of cracks me up that he's using that here, but he's saying it's safer to be feared.
Yeah.
Not necessarily better. It's kind of odd.
Yeah,
It's putting it in a positive light, even though it's not necessarily saying a better thing.
Yeah. He talks about several different methods of doing it, and there's not necessarily one way you would lead it. It's like you would lead a nation around the circumstance in which you came into power, around the circumstance of what is happening.
Right.
And it's like, he's like, there's no one thing, there's no one path. It's like, here's what you do in this instance, here's what you do here. And he's like, the things he says are very much like, and this is why you do it. And something I find really interesting about him is every time, every chapter, every example, every rule has a lesson or a example associated with it. He always brings up an instance of where someone fucked up or did well, and like he's always citing history as
it's very historic,
up.
Which is why it's not for a lot of people, it might not necessarily be the easiest kind of read, because it's not a novel, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's very it is definitely very instruction manual.
Yeah, it's what you said, it's a self-help book for princes, I guess.
Maybe I should sit down with Busyfoot and the chalkboard and start going.
This will be his bedtime story. There's a specific part that I had, and I thought I bookmarked it. I'm having trouble finding it. Oh, I found it. Okay. Yeah, this is probably my favorite quote in the whole book. This is great. A wise man ought always to follow the paths beaten by great men, and to imitate those who have been supreme, so that if his ability does not equal theirs, at least it will savor of it. Let him act like the clever archer who, designing to hit the mark, which yet appears too far distant, and knowing the limits to which the strength of their bow attains, take aim much higher than the mark, not only to reach by their strength or arrow to so great a height, but to be able, with the aid of so height, and aim to hit the mark they wish to reach. In a non-wordy way. He's saying follow the examples of great people, all the masters that have come before you, like take their lead. Don't reinvent the wheel. Why do that? And he's also saying
Yeah,
to hit
well,
your
you're not
mark.
you're not gonna achieve greatness reinventing the wheel. And even if you don't achieve the greatness above those people, you're still gonna emulate the same pathway that they did, which you're still gonna achieve a greatness, because what you're leveling yourself at is already so great.
Mhm.
So you need to shoot above. You need to shoot for the unattainable.
Yeah. And
Because if you miss it and you get just underneath it, which is the barely attainable, that's what great men do,
yeah,
or people, excuse me. Right?
if you shoot it straight up into the air and just aim for the heavens, it's gonna go pretty fucking far. Well, not straight up, but like
But if you
the
get
right
it straight
angle.
up with no wind, it might come back and land on you.
Yeah. Yeah, don't shoot it straight up. Yeah. In order to achieve, what you want to achieve, aim way higher of it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in in like professional fighting and like martial arts, they teach you to punch through things.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to hit something, you're trying to hit through it.
Right.
Um,
Your target
you're
is
using all of your effort to try and put your hand entirely through that person's face, like just
well, the idea is the muscle memory motion is there, and your target should not be their nose, because that'll make you want to pull. The target is the back behind their head, because your full extension would end up back behind their head.
Oh, I see
Of
what you're saying.
course, they're gonna go back,
Yeah.
probably, if they don't block it. So yeah, that's that's the idea of force, and that's hard style versus tournament style.
Um, yeah. It's
But
funny. I guess let's talk about the pop culture of Machiavelli. Like we talked about Mac, but like he's a popular guy.
yeah,
The people toss around the term Machiavellian to describe people or characters, and it's like he's like, I don't know, has he always been this popular, or is this like a new hipster thing?
well, that's the thing.
I want to see. Actually, I can find out. That's an easy thing to chart, actually. Don't they have like you can look at the etymology of a word and like see its popularity over time?
Well, that's the thing is, I'm trying to look it up because I know the first pop culture reference I know of Mac is Return of the Mac. It's an old movie, and that's where. But
Oh, I found it. Oh, dude, that's hilarious.
a confident, successful man who has many sexy
Wow.
fingers.
Let's look at
An individual skilled in the art of seduction.
Yo, look at that. Okay, I gotta show Alice and Neef this. All right, Alice, look at this. This is crazy. All right, can you see that, Neef?
It's taking a second. Hold on,
This is the word Machiavellian. Well, maybe that makes sense because it's like the coinage, but maybe like I wonder if I search Machiavelli, what would come up? Can you see what I'm looking at?
Yeah. Wow.
Any personal name.
That's definitely Return of the Mac.
Well, that's interesting. I'm gonna try. Let's do. Okay, so we also have a huge surge in his popularity between what's this year right here? 1980, basically. Wait, more specifically, 1978 is when the usage of the word Machiavelli really fucking
Yeah,
took off.
That might have been when the movie came out. Let's see.
Belly.
Because it was also a song.
Yeah, but that's who they're all talking about in pop culture.
Is that what that's?
What
Well, let's see.
You know what it is?
So if I just type in Mac,
Well,
it's probably
I know it was a song. Yeah. It was also a movie.
is Mac MAC? Is that how you spell that?
MACK,
MACK.
which
Google don't like that. So what are you doing?
oh wow. That movie was actually based on Frank Ward, who was a American drug African American drug dealers and pimps at the time. The Ward brothers, him and his three brothers.
Neve, look at this.
That doesn't make any sense.
Neve, what the fuck? Look at this.
Let's pick it. That's other stuff. Like that can't just be from that. Like it's Google doesn't know
Yo,
about.
I know, but it's just so funny. This is like what were they talking about in between 16? What were they talking about right here? 1671 to fucking 1691, and then they just stopped. They just dead stopped. Like, no,
Was that when? Yeah. Was
like
that
no,
when he was alive?
no. He was
Yeah.
when was Machiavelli alive? It was 1500s. 1469 to 1527. This is like 200 years after him.
So now,
That's funny. Well, I wonder what they were talking, what usage of the word Mac they were using in the late 1600s. And then they fucking stopped completely. Like, at least according to Google. It's not like it declined over time. They're just like dead.
It went
No.
all the way up, steady, just rode for like 50 years.
Yeah.
Just dropped the fuck off.
Like, that was funny. He references like a lot of rulers throughout time, and some of them he praises, and some of them he just really shits on, which is funny. It's just like, fuck this guy. There's another part I really like. Yeah. Yeah. This one I don't know what I think about this. It's just it says that he who is the cause of another becoming powerful is ruined, because that predominancy has been brought about either by astuteness, by else, or else by force. And both are distrusted by him who has been raised to power. I don't really know what that means.
Read it one more time.
He who is the cause of another becoming powerful is ruined, because that predominancy has been brought about either by astuteness or else by force, and both are distrusted by him who has been raised to power.
So the person that is responsible for another person's rise to power is ruined because either that rise to power was done because they put them there, which you're putting yourself below another person in the first place, or it was taken by force and you're ruined in that instance. And the person above you is not going to trust you either way, because a person who's in power, who's been put in power by someone below them, is going to be thinking, why, or what do they want to gain from me being in power? What are, like shit like that. And then if they took it by force, then they're going to be worrying about, okay, are they going to come back and try and take the power back? That's some real
kind of goes back to the
some paranoid shit. Like,
well, it kind of goes back to the I mean,
dude, be paranoid for sure.
I mean, you have to.
I mean, he had knives at his back all the time, though.
Yeah, I mean, you do.
Yeah, if you go around taking over territory, then people are going to expect you to be the kind of person they need to take territory from.
Right.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's kind of like the idea, a lesson, an old blues man lesson to be learned from many years ago when it comes to significant others. When, if you take another man's woman, that's probably how you're going to lose her.
Thanks.
Now, on that note, I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to go get some cookies.
I think we're done here anyway. I mean, it's a short book, and we ran the gambit. So
we did it. We were very Machiavellian about it.
Yeah, in and out like a bandit.
That's how we did it. Damn it.
Yeah. Oh, I guess. Hey, Neef, can I get a drum roll?
Oh. It's not a drum roll, but it's a beat.
I have next month's book.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I asked for a drum roll. Bum, bum, bum. Reading Hitchhiker's Guide.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. It's going to be good. Well, Alice, thank you for joining us this evening. It has been a good time. We learned about the Mac. The OG Mac Daddy.
The original.
Yeah, he's a character. People debate that he might have been a psychopath. Like
sociopath for sure.
And a lot of his, and to be considered to be Machiavellian is not always like the best thing to be considered.
No. And yeah, I guess maybe we should be clear, since we did a book on this. I don't we did a book club on it. I don't agree with all of what he says, or even most of it.
Yeah, it's very.
I don't know how I feel about him.
Yeah, there's logic in it when it comes to, like, it's kind of like the art of war. If you're not at war or having to defend something, it looks pretty harsh to you. But if you take it and you try to apply it to something like business, or really driving to complete a project, it's probably not the worst thing you could look at for a little bit of inspiration on, being like, damn it, we're going to get this done. So, and sometimes in history, we found that that's needed. It's just things have to be tempered, Alice.
And, there might be an argument too that him teaching politicians to separate ethics from politics is not a good thing for people. There is also an argument to say that it is, because you have to have stability and there's necessary evils. It's not clear, to me at least, how to feel about Machiavelli. But he is who he is, and he's a part of history, and he's a part of culture for sure. He's very popular right now. He's more popular than he's ever been, apparently. So
the stock keeps rising.
yeah. Well, Alice, catch us in 2 days with Harry Rooster. That's going to be fun. See ya.